You were blamed before anyone asked questions. You were corrected when others were excused. You carried the weight of mistakes you never made, and somehow you were told this was normal. Let me be clear with you right now. This was not because you were weak. It was not because you were difficult. It was not because you were broken. You were chosen, not by love, but by a system that needed someone to carry its shame. And once you understand this, the power shifts back to you. The black sheep is not an accident. In families, groups, workplaces, and even friendships, balance is often fake. What looks like harmony is often maintained by one person absorbing tension for everyone else. Psychology calls this scapegoating. Stoicism calls it injustice dressed as order. You became the black sheep because you disrupted comfort. Maybe you asked questions others were afraid to ask. Maybe you noticed contradictions and refused to pretend they were not there. Maybe you simply existed differently. Groups that avoid responsibility look for someone to carry it for them. They need one person to project blame onto, so the group can avoid self-examination. That person was you. Epictetus warned that people protect their illusions more fiercely than truth. When truth appears, they attack the messenger. You were not rejected for being wrong. You were rejected for being accurate. Why you were always the one. Blamed blame is rarely logical. It is emotional. It moves toward the person least protected, not the person most responsible. Psychology shows that scapegoats are often the most perceptive, empathetic, or independent thinkers in the system. You noticed patterns others denied. You sensed tension before it exploded. You felt responsible for peace even when it was not yours to create. So when something went wrong, the group already had a familiar target, you. Not because you caused the problem, but because blaming you kept everyone else comfortable. Stoicism teaches a hard truth here. People prefer a false peace over an honest reckoning. You threatened the false peace simply by being yourself. The emotional cost of being the black sheep. Being the black sheep does not just hurt socially. It reshapes how you see yourself. You start over-explaining. You start doubting your memory. You start apologizing for existing. You begin scanning rooms for danger instead of connection. This is not weakness. This is conditioning. When a system repeatedly blames you, your nervous system learns to stay alert. Hypervigilance becomes your default. Silence feels safer than truth. Distance feels safer than closeness. Marcus Aurelius wrote about not internalizing unjust judgments. But this is hard when those judgments came from the people who were supposed to protect you. Still, the Stoic path begins here. You separate what was done to you from who you are. The hidden strength you developed here is the part no one tells you. Being the black sheep forged strengths most people never develop. You learned to self-reflect early. You learned emotional endurance. You learned how to survive without approval. You learned how to read energy, not words. While others relied on external validation, you learned internal calibration. While others avoided discomfort, you lived inside it. Psychology confirms this. Scapegoated individuals often develop higher emotional intelligence and resilience, not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. Stoicism respects this kind of forged strength. Hardship does not automatically destroy. It reveals why they resist your growth. Here is a brutal truth. When you grow, the system that blamed you feels exposed. If you heal, the narrative breaks. If you succeed, the lies collapse. If you gain clarity, the illusion shatters. So they may minimize your achievements. They may rewrite history. They may accuse you of changing, as if growth were betrayal. This is not confusion. This is defense. You are never meant to outgrow the role they assigned you. Your strength threatens their comfort. Stoicism reminds you that approval is outside your control. Your character is not. The moment you stop playing the role, power returns when you stop defending yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You do not need to prove innocence to those invested in your guilt. You do not need to explain your pain to those who benefited from it. You do not need permission to step out of a false role. This is where many black sheep hesitate. They fear becoming what they were accused of being: cold, distant, selfish. But boundaries are not cruelty. Distance is not punishment. Silence is not failure. Stoicism teaches voluntary withdrawal from what corrupts your character. Walking away is not weakness. It is discipline. Rebuilding identity after scapegoating. Once you leave the role, a quiet question appears. Who am I without blame? This stage feels empty at first, because for so long your identity was defined in opposition. The problem child, the difficult one, the disappointment. Psychology calls this identity reconstruction. Stoicism calls it returning to reason. You begin asking better questions. What values do I live by? What behavior do I respect in myself? What standards do I refuse to lower again? This is where your real self forms, not in reaction, but in intention. Why the black sheep often becomes the cycle breaker. Here is the quiet legacy of your suffering. Black sheep often end cycles. They refuse to pass pain forward. They question norms others obey blindly. They choose awareness over tradition when tradition is harmful. This is why your path felt lonely. You were not meant to fit in. You were meant to see clearly. Stoicism respects those who stand firm without applause, those who act rightly without reward, those who accept solitude over corruption. You were never the problem. You were the interruption. Letting go without bitterness. Holding anger feels justified, but it keeps you tied to the role. Stoicism does not ask you to excuse harm. It asks you to release what controls you. Forgiveness here is not reconciliation. It is detachment. You stop needing them to admit wrongdoing. You stop waiting for fairness that will not come. You stop carrying the weight they handed you. Freedom arrives quietly, not with revenge, but with indifference. Your power going forward. You are not behind. You are not damaged beyond repair. You are not hard to love. You are experienced. You see through manipulation quickly. You value depth over appearance. You choose truth over comfort. That is not a flaw. That is earned wisdom. The black sheep does not stay lost forever. They become the one who walks their own path without asking permission. And if this resonates with you, stay here. This space is for those who were blamed, misunderstood, and still chose growth. You were never broken. You were forged. Look at me for a moment. If you spent years carrying blame that never belonged to you, this message is not random. You did not imagine the unfairness. You did not overreact. You were responding to something real. You survived being misunderstood without losing your ability to think. You stayed aware in a place that rewarded denial. That already sets you apart. You are not here to fix what refused to face itself. You are here to build a life that no longer needs permission to exist. Let that sink in. If this spoke to you, this channel is for you. We break down hidden dynamics people avoid talking about. We use Stoic wisdom and psychology to help you regain clarity, self-respect, and direction. Subscribe now, not for motivation, for understanding. Because once you see clearly, you stop carrying what was never yours.